The next screen to look at is manual mode. Again, manual mode is broken apart into various sub-screens. It's all based on the model of the machine and how many axes are available. In this configuration, we're looking at a model 55P. That machine only has a carriage, an injector, and a screw. If we were looking at a 70, we'd actually see the addition of a clamp, potentially a shuttle, and potentially an inject. So the very first screen is the carriage. So again, this is just for manual controls of controlling a carriage. So we have the option to either jog the nozzle away from the mold or toward the mold. You also have positional status, letting you know whether it's fully retracted or at the mold, and just a feedback of the system pressure on the machine. If we go to the injector, a little bit more information provided. Again, we have our manual controls with retract and inject, as well as with positional status, because the position of an injector is tracked through a linear pot. And we also have positional flags, letting you know if you're at shot size or fully down, as well as system pressure. I've also repeated the shot size information again, which are duplications of the recipe parameters on the recipe screens. The next screen is the screw. The screw is what turns, it pulls material from the hopper into the barrel. So jog controls, there's two options in this. There's what's known as fill and extrude. When you hold the fill button in, the screw will spin, and as more material is pulled in, the injectors will retract, make more room for additional material. The extrude button is different in the fact the assumption is that you're trying to push material out of the barrel and clean out the barrel for maybe a new type of material you're pulling in or a purged material to clean out that barrel. So when you hold extrude, the injectors will also push down. So you'll see both the injector solenoids turn on as well as the screw. Everything pushes down and it holds the screw all the way down to zero position as it tries to pull material from the hopper through the barrel out into the mold or purge plate. Other feedback is you have the percentage of fill, just as what we saw in the auto screen recovery, letting you know how close to empty the full shot size you're at. You have system pressure again, as well as more information repeating again what the shot size is set to, and even the injector's position. The last option or screen is the purge cycle. So this is a sort of an auto cycle built in the manual mode. So it does require certain conditions to run. It doesn't just run on its own. And even starting the purge cycle requires you to use the two-hand palm buttons to begin that cycle. So begin with this, since this is a cycle, you have status information at the top, letting you know what step or cycle or what step you are in that cycle. You also have information on the cycle controls. So how do you start it, as well as the stop button if you decide at some point you wish to stop the cycle. System pressure information. And then purge time is how long do you want the cycle to run. Typically what happens during a purge cycle is the carriage will drop down onto the purge plate. Then the screw and the injectors will turn on. In other words, you begin an extrude option, just as if you were holding the extrude on the screw page. And it'll continue that operation based on this time you set here. This example, they're showing 10 seconds. So extrude for 10 seconds. After you're done, the carriage will pull off the purge plate, and the operator can pull out the purge plate and clean it out. Something else to be noted that I didn't mention on the other axes. So, for example, the control jog buttons, in this case, you show a yellow for jog away or jog toward. If I go to the injector screen, there's only a yellow button for retract and not inject. What that's indicating is when that axis is allowed to move. If you have yellow, that axis could move. If it's grayed out, then that direction is not available. How do you determine what's the condition for that? Well, at the very bottom of all the axis screens is the help diagnostics. What this shows you is what are the conditions needed to make this work. So, for example, general conditions are control power on, hydraulic pump running, and so forth. But you also might have conditions of what's permissions to push versus do a suck back or pull away. So the carriage has to be all the way forward for the push to work. In this case, it's not, so you cannot push material forward. Primary reason for that is there's a non-drilled tip at the end of the nozzle. So if the carriage did try to, or the the injector tried to push material forward, it's going to run into that nodule tip, and the material can't go out of the barrel, and you're actually going to build up some dangerous pressures or everything else. So we just don't prevent you, or we prevent you from being able to do that. But the injector is allowed to move back, so there's no negatives of doing that. So you are allowed to jog away from the 0 point of the barrel, but you cannot go forward unless you actually push that tip up against a purge plate or a mold. So every screen has that option. So even the screw has that option to let you know what conditions must be met. Even the carriage has that option.